Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond. Thank you for being here today. My name is Suzanne Short, and I am pleased and privileged to serve this community on its Board of Trustees. I hope this gathering, together yet apart, nourishes your spirit and helps sustain you and your loved ones during this and all challenging times. If you are a visitor here today, our congregation welcomes you, and we are so glad that you are here. We would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us where you're from in the chat feature on Zoom. Our church was begun in 1833 as a liberal Christian community. We are now a community of many faith journeys and beliefs, guided not by a creed, but by a covenant to uphold shared principles marked by love, respect, and justice. Our faith community continues to work together to put our UU principles and values into action and build beloved community and serve the purpose of justice for all here in the Richmond community. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism and would like to learn more about our faith and our community, we invite you to check out our website, join our Facebook group, and reach out by email at membership@richmonduu.org. I hope everyone will consider stopping by our virtual coffee hour, which starts approximately 5 minutes after the end of the service, through a separate Zoom link available in Saturday's email and on our Facebook site. Coffee hour provides a time for us to connect with fellow church members, and if you are new to First UU or a visitor here today, a time for us to get to know you better. I would also like to encourage church members and visitors to tune in to our Sunday morning services 5 to 10 minutes early in order to catch the scrolling announcements. This is a good way to stay informed about things that are important in our church community and stay informed. Again, welcome to this joyful Sunday, made sacred by all of us being together, worshiping, and sharing our time with each other.
This morning child's lighting is from Jeanne Pupke. You think your pain and heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world, but then you read, it was Dostoevsky and Dickens who taught me that the things that tormented me most were the very things that connected me with all the people who were alive or who ever had been alive. Only if we face these open wounds in ourselves, we can understand them in other people.
I was optimistic. I thought there would be a very clear landslide, that there would be a reckoning, that we had made a mistake. I was sure of it. I put my faith in the American people and in the polls. My mother, who had read the polls, who had felt that a deep mistake was made, she saw it differently. She looked out and saw a place where people weren't really saying to the pollsters what they really believed. Mom was. So where will we find hope? Right now, where shall we go when we want to believe that some good things can come, that there is a way forward, that there should be hope? Where do we go? Right here. Not because we're perfect and we have all the answers, but because just being here is part of the answer. Our service today asks the question, where is the hope? Mom will not be making an appearance.
This morning's reading is from Rebecca Solnit, from Hope in the Dark. Hope doesn't mean denying these realities. It means facing them and addressing them by remembering what else the 21st century has brought, including the movements, heroes, and shifts in consciousness that address these things now. This has been a truly remarkable decade for movement building, social change, and deep, profound shifts in ideas, perspective, and frameworks for broad parts of the population. And, of course, backlashes against all those things. It's important to say what hope is not. It is not the belief that everything was, is, or will be fine. The evidence is all around us of tremendous suffering and tremendous destruction. The hope I'm interested in is about broad perspectives with specific possibilities, ones that invite or demand that we act. It is also not a sunny everything is getting better narrative, though it may be a counter to the everything is getting worse narrative. You could call it an account of complexities and uncertainties with openings. From Hope in the Dark by Rebecca Solnit.
I invite you all now into a time of meditation.
Spirit of Life gods of many names, be in our hearts and minds as we come together to pray for our community. We come today grateful for this blessing and hopeful for our future. This new day has come, and after the results of Tuesday's elections, we are still a divided nation. Half the people in our nation are rejoicing while the other half are stunned and so afraid. We are a nation divided by races, gender, income, class, politics, red and blue state. One half of our population doesn't try to understand the other half. What divided us then continued to tear at the seams of the fabric of this nation. So help us to remember that the experiment called democracy is not over. It is still being tested. We still have so much work to do. So in the midst of our sense of victory, help us remember we are called to love one another. In the midst of our sense of defeat, help us to remember not to fall in despair or hopelessness. Help us now to put aside our own feelings, jumbled and confused as they may be at the moment, in service of others, our families, our friends and neighbors here and around the world. Help us to remember that we are called to be agents of forgiveness and reconciliation, love and peace, healing and hope in a world made dark by fear and hatred and brokenness. Help us work to rebuild this nation by finding the best of us to serve those who are the least, the lost, and the lonely. May we find strength in our diversity and seek the courage to live together in peace, seeking justice for all our siblings. And let us acknowledge our differences as we seek out our common ground, each of us working towards the good of all. We ask these things in the name of all we call holy. Amen.
Still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, sing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain. Sing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years. Sing.
This month's Share the Plate recipient is Faith Community Baptist Church Student Support Project. Stay connected, stay on point. Faith Community Baptist Church, located in the east end of Richmond, was founded over 25 years ago by its visionary pastor, the Reverend Dr. Patricia Gould-Champ. Its mission is to minister to the inner city, especially the community of Fairfield, Welcome, and the Creighton Court Housing Project. In her desire to support East End parents and to provide their children a safe learning environment with reduced risk of exposure to the coronavirus, Dr. Gould-Champ created Project Stay Connected, Stay on Point. Stay Connected, Stay on Point is a program that allows students in the kindergarten to 5th grades to be connected as well as to stay on point educationally. Students attend the program at no charge and have help of volunteers as they log into their virtual classrooms from 8:30 to 3:30, Monday through Friday, while their parents work. The church is turned into a classroom each day for the program, and breakfast and lunch are provided. And in addition to classroom activities, part of the students' daily routine includes gardening and outdoors activities on the church grounds in the afternoon. This program received no state funding, and it's solely dependent on donations from the community for financial support. So I ask, will you please consider to donate to this worthy cause? And ways you can contribute is shown on the following slide. The offering will now be taken and most graciously received.
It has been a long way to arrive here today. And the question of how much hope we bring to the moment is the question I want to talk about. You know, we had a long 4 years where we were exposed to things we never expected to see in the role of the presidency. Doesn't matter what your perspective is, that's true. A lot of norms were disregarded, broken, shattered. But we saw things that we didn't feel comfortable with. Then we had a long election process in which it wasn't clear who could step forward. Ultimately, Joseph R. Biden came forward. And then there was a great, intense election effort, not just for the presidential election, but for the Senate, the House, for all those candidates. I know many of you have spent lots of hours working, sending postcards, encouraging voter registrations, encouraging turning out the vote, helping on issues. Last week, we heard from a lot of those people. And the reality is that we together, I guess it's safe to say this, that together we came to the election hopeful, right? We were ready to succeed. And we came hopeful and then set up ourselves as, how would I put it? I guess the best way to put it is optimistic that we would be able to find, sorry, I had to turn on my recording here. We were optimistic we would find a shift in sensitivity that remedied what we thought might have been a bad thing. Now I can say that because in this congregation, there have been a lot of very deeply shared political values, to the point where people who held different values didn't feel at home among us, left our church, and specifically told me that they felt marginalized for holding a different political view. Most of those people are gone, or at least gone publicly. And I know that there are a lot of people who wish it could have been otherwise, that the diversity we want to see should be applied broadly. But let's consider where we have arrived. We had the election, and then 96 hours later, we found out who the president was, even though he had millions and millions of votes more. A system that we all feel frustrated about, I'm sure. But the other thing that happened is that ultimately last night, a Black woman of immigrant descent that includes an Asian heritage as well, came forward to claim that she's going to be our vice president. And how exciting was that? It was hard not to be very emotional to see that barrier just get shattered. and shattered because she was chosen by a kid who grew up in a working class family in a town that I went to college in, where he, as a senator, was already known and beloved, and lots of stories about Joey. And I'm glad that it was that state's decision that pretty much put him over, but we can't ignore good work that was done by Stacey Abrams and others in Georgia. And just to make the vote fair, just to do that, it was impressive. But at the same time, we see this deep chasm and divide. And it has grown so wide, we're almost shocked to see it's still there when we thought, we hoped that it was otherwise. You know, things have changed so radically that each of us has become our own media mogul. Whereas we used to have the great papers of record. In every city, we had multiple papers and different viewpoints. Whereas we used to have networks, that the big three networks, that we could kind of combine to listen. Now we are fractured into thousands of media outlets, and the habit of gravitating only towards those we trust and away from those with whom we disagree has made us ever more convinced that we absolutely are right. Hence, this morning, a large portion of the population in America claims the election has been stolen, with no evidence, no facts, just an ambitious effort to lay down court cases. How we have shattered this community shouldn't be a myth. There has always been deep discord in American politics. But what's different now is that we've sorted ourselves according to those politics in unique ways, not just urban and rural or blue states and red states. But what used to divide us was religion or ethnicity. When I grew up in New York, ethnicity was the identity that dominated. You were Italian or Irish or Jewish. You were who you were born to. And that made us focus on families. But now, on Facebook, we wage our campaigns, and sisters can't abide looking at one another's posts. Friends have parted company. Just this week, I heard several people tell me they've parted company with former classmates and former friends because they just can't bear one another's thoughts. Not very hopeful. And we've made politics our primary identity to the point where it has overcome religion. When I was growing up as a Catholic, if you were a Protestant marrying a Catholic, it was kind of like a come down. It was a real thing. Indeed, my experience of the whole thing was colored by the fact that my mother became a Catholic, pretty much because she married my father, who was Catholic, and then discovered her own spirituality therein. But it wasn't uncommon to have those things be the chasms among us, and we've switched the location of these chasms. As a result, hope is shattered by the way we treat one another, the tribalisms, the partial nature of information, and for many of us, the exasperation of seeing reason downplayed to emotion. My mentor, the Reverend Peter Rabel, used to say, try never to conduct a church that thinks it is the Democratic Party at prayer. It's hard. I take it to heart, and it's hard sometimes for us not to just assume. But I want to share one thought today about hope, which I think is helpful. I'm going to be talking in the time between now and the inauguration about a number of thinkers who bring something to us. Next week, I'll be talking about Grace Lee Boggs and her reading of Dr. King. But I just want to mention Henry Nelson Wyman, a real character in our Unitarian tradition. He was originally a Presbyterian minister and an academic, but he became a natural theist. Religious naturalism was his practice, and he furthered our understanding of what is possible. And right now, I think all of us wonder, what is possible with such deep division? How do we make a difference here? So let me just share a little bit of Wyman, who's a very complex theologian. But I think this is the nugget today that we should carry. He believed that in any moment of interpersonal encounter, each person brings something, which if you just look at it in an additive fashion, just sums up an encounter. It's what you expect, what you value, meaning what the other person expects and what they value. But he said in the encounter, oftentimes there's an exchange that surprises us. The way something is said, a story that is told, something that is heard that helps us to understand the other person. And when that happens, a new possibility total emerges. But we have to be prepared for that other possibility and not shut down from it. So if we encounter a Facebook friend with whom we disagree, and we carry in deep expectations of what will happen, then nothing else is likely to happen. Whereas if we allow the event to reveal itself, bring open heart and mind, that empowers a new possibility. In 2016, 17, and 18, I preached a lot, drawing upon the work of Arlie Hochschild, a woman who was raised in All Souls Church in DC, who served as an academic in the sociology department at Berkeley, which immediately discounts her teaching to many, I suspect. But she really invested herself. For 5 years, she traveled to Louisiana to research why people were so angry about what was happening in America, why the divide was widening up. And she learned a lot about what people felt that led them to become very conservative and to pull away from the center of the US. She discovered a lot of things that you can only really get by reading the book, which is called Strangers in Their Own Land. So for the umpteenth time, I recommend we read it with Henry Nelson Wyman in mind. I'll be preaching again on Wyman. But in this time where we're studying Black Lives Matter and having the courage of our convictions, it's very important that in trying to bridge the divide, we not become accommodationists, tolerant of the racist ideology that is a part of our separation, that makes the side that wants to see an end to racism be different from a side that thinks there is no racism or racism is overworked. We have to have the courage of conviction to bring our whole self to the moment and our whole heart open to the encounter. because that's the way the third possibility happens. So adamantly stating our position on Facebook shuts down the opportunity for that moment. And while I know, unfortunately, many of us have crossed people off of our lists, it's a time now for us to reinstall hope. We cannot control anyone else's thought or behavior. We can only control our own. And I wonder if we could examine who or whom we've written off and ask ourselves whether or not we believe that our community, our religious community's theology includes possibility, a belief that there are more options than we might think at any moment, and that if we bring open-heartedness to the human encounter, all manner of new possibilities emerge. I know I'm wondering with whom I should have an exchange, reach out and talk with about the separateness and how unfortunate that feels. At the very same time, we can listen to one another about our values. Thanksgiving's coming, folks, virtual or not. I want to plead with us not to give up hope. Not that we'll ever bridge the divide of politics, the absolute ultimate thing it seems right now. And I'm as passionate as anyone. I believe in good governance, and I believe in all of us working together to speak to the issues of the day and to discern our path forward. I'm as passionate as anyone and as disappointed that there was no repudiation of bad behavior, of immoral action. But that's my political self. And my Unitarian Universalist self knows that in the end, I must serve a hope that is deep, pervasive, and strong in my life in a way that transforms the moment of encounter. Still, I hope that all of us will take some time to make sure that whatever is possible is probable in our days. Maybe there are some fences to be made or some agreements to be accommodated where we can talk about some things. Maybe we're not ready to talk about everything. And yet this must exist in an ongoing commitment we have to the values we hold as true, welcoming the immigrant stranger, working to defeat racism and its dynamics of white supremacy in our governance and culture, creating a welcoming community where people can be beloved without a whole lot of conditions. Some are necessary, but not infinitely. And the hardest work for all of us great individualists of coming into community and learning from each other humbly. None of us ever get it all right. Some of us have a lot of learning to do. And I just want to applaud all of us when we open our heart to new learning and discover new ways to do things. The best part of falling flat on your face is having people who will come over, grab your elbow and say, "You're okay. We're going to get it right the next time. Let me tell you what I think you did wrong." I've been the beneficiary of many of those moments, people who've let me know that what I said or how I said it didn't feel good and might have been part of a culture that is so hard on people of color, women, GLBT folk. Don't believe we all can't carry our own prejudices into our own groups. We can. Here's what I believe. You all are smart. You all are well motivated. You're good people. You get tired sometimes. You get frustrated sometimes. We all do. But then there's the renewal to move toward hope and the possibilities of encounter among us. We don't need to divide the nation. We need to see it as one whole, as our president-elect is asking us to do. So let's not defeat his way of working by entrenching ourselves. Let's try to follow thoughtfully and open our hearts as what Nelson Wyman has taught us. Let's try, as Unitarian Universalists, not to fall into the big hole that gets deeper and deeper. Work for our values, committed to them absolutely with courage, but loving one another and admitting we have to go forward with a vision that compels us to meet the other in love and compassion. I know it's a lot to ask on a week where we've all lost so much sleep. But think about the many, many people who've been working harder than we have. Well, our candidates, all of them, the political activists, all of them, Stacey Abrams, yes, and let's not forget Steve Kornacki. So, you and I are on a mission. It's the same mission we had before the election, to heal the world, to bring a word of hope, and to live that out in this group where we have to cheer each other on through difficult days and do the work. May it be so, and may it be full of hope.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Let us extinguish our chalice to these words from Langston Hughes. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field, frozen with snow. Let us extinguish our chalice.
Be that guide who loves the stage, rise above the daily strife, lift on high the good you find, help to heal the hurts of life. Be that helper nothing daunts, doubt of friend or taunt of foe, ever strive for liberty, show the path that life should go. Be that builder trusting good, bitter though the test may be, through all ages they are right, though they build in agony. Be that teacher faith direct, move beyond the old frontier, though the frightened fear that faith be tomorrow's pioneer.
May we have the courage of our commitments, courage enough to claim hope. Hope for tomorrow, hope for the next years, hope because we believe that we can fiercely love others, even when we disagree, and that we will find a way forward that is loving and caring and accountable, and that we will find a way to be a beloved community. May it be so.